Hi, my name's Kaz and I've got Parkinson's. I just wanted to talk a little bit about today about attitudes and the lack of care and aftercare when you have things done. And there are some lovely people that you come across, when like what happened to me where I pulled this out. Well, I phoned the Duodopa people and they had no realization that it was an emergency. Do you know what I mean? They didn't tell me to do it. All they said to me was, "I'll email them, and hopefully you'll get it sorted next year." Well, that's no good to me. I've got a young family, and I would have been bedridden. Well, I was bedridden. Me and my husband said to me, "You're not going to like this, but we'll go sit up at A&E at Nottingham Hospital, and we'll get sorted." Because the only person that told us to help us was 111. We phoned 111, and they said you need to go to A&E and sit in there because it is an emergency. But Duodopa just said, "We'll email someone and get back to you next year." No one was bothered. This tube had come out my bowel. It was gushing all over my leg, so we clamped it off. But they didn't see the real urgency. And then when I got into A&E, they was lovely. The two doctors I saw in there was amazing. And I got on the ward, and I have to repeat myself about 100 times because no one knows about this pump. Very little training is given and very little care is given. So it is really frustrating. And when you're switched off and you can't even walk, and it was quite a scary moment, and they're not bothered. They don't care if you're in bed or Christmas or whether your Christmas is ruined. I get that it's my fault and I should have been more careful, but accidents happen. But things should be set in place, to help people. I mean, when I got onto one of the wards, gastro came to see me, who was going to fix me. They didn't have a clue, what pipe to put in. And I was proper stressing. I was saying, no one's doing surgery on me until you find somebody that know what they're doing. Because, and luckily a nice team turned up and they did exactly what they needed to do. They were lovely. I'm no good with names, but they were a brilliant team and they fixed me up. The only thing they did wrong is they put the wrong connector on the end. So a lady came back the following day and snipped that off and put the right connector on. But a Parkinson's nurse, I wasn't happy with, came onto the ward and said to me that basically I was in the wrong. I should have waited till next year to be fixed. And I shouldn't have sat in A&E, and next time I won't be so lucky. I don't know where she gets the right to talk to people like that, but it was an emergency. It was awful. When it happened, all of my children was in the kitchen. It was like a scene out of a horror movie. All I needed was some kind word and said, "Yeah, come down. You might get a long wait in A&E, but we'll get you sorted." They did not care whatsoever. And the rudeness, that woman, she basically said I was in the wrong for sitting in A&E and I wouldn't be as lucky next time. You know, it's absolutely disgusting. People need more training on how to use these machines. And if you don't have a caring nature, then you shouldn't be doing that job in the first place. Because it's terrifying, unless it happens to them. There might be Parkinson's nurses, but they don't live with this disease. They're trained out of books. They don't, understand what it's like to have this disease day in, day out. And when this machine got pulled out of my stomach, within 2 hours, I couldn't even crawl. I couldn't take myself to the toilet. I couldn't do anything. It is so scary. And the look on my kids' faces, my husband said, "We have to do something." So we took ourselves up to A&E in Nottingham, and they were fantastic in there. There are some good people, but Duodopa and the Parkinson's nurses really need to take a hard look at themselves and the way they treat people, because it is not easy living with this disease. You feel very vulnerable, very unsafe, and so I don't know if anybody is going to watch this video and do something about it, but I really do think it needs investigating. I think of how many people out there in the same boat as me. Yes, I should have been more careful. It got caught on a drawer. I was rushing about, but accidents happen. So now I've got going to buy some pinnies, something like a long cardigan or something to hide the tube in. But it's so scary, to think that things like that happen. And there's no advice, there's no, aftercare, there's nothing. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there because I've had my little rant. but I'm feeling much better. I've had the odd moment where I've switched off, and then I've been very tired. So I've had a lot of stress to deal with lately. But anyway, I love you all a lot, guys, and I'll speak to you later, hopefully in a better mood. Bye.